ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानं जनशलाकया चाक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नामश्रेष्ठं मनुमापि सिद्धिपुत्रं अत्र स्वरूपं रूपं तक्षाग्रजमुरुपुरीं मातुरीं गोष्ठावतीं राधाकुण्डं गिरिवरं महं राधिकमधावसं प्राप्तो यस्या प्रतितकृपाया श्रीगुरुं तं नतोऽस्मि। वञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानं पवनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। निखिलाश्रुतिमौलिरत्नमालद्युति निराजिता पदपङ्कजन्ता अजीमुक्तकुलैरुपश्यामनं परितस्त्वं हरिणं संश्रयामि। अनर्पितचरिं चिरात्करुणयावतीर्णा कलुः समार्पयितुमुन्नतज्वलराशिं स्वभक्तिश्रियम् हरिपुरतसुन्दराद्युतिकदम्बसन्दीपितः सदा हृदये कन्दरे स्फुरतो वसचिनन्दनः जानुलम्बिता कनकावदातु सङ्कीर्तनैकपितरो कमलायतक्षु विश्वम्भरो द्वियावरो जुगधर्मपालो वन्दे जगत्प्रियकरो करुणावतारो लादिने शक्तिस्वरूपाय गौरङ्गसुहृदाय च भक्तशक्तिप्रदानाय गदाधर नमोऽस्तुते। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपीककन्त राधाकन्त नमोऽस्तुते। राधे वृन्दवनाधीशे करुणमृतवाहिनि कृपाया निजपादब्जादस्यन्मह्यं प्रदीयतम् भक्त्या विहीनाय अपराधलक्षय क्षिप्तश्चाकमादितरङ्गमाध्ये कृपामयि त्वं शरणं प्रपन्नं वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दं वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। श्री सच्चिनंदन गौर हरि की जय। श्री हरि नाम प्रभु की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। गौर प्रमानंद हरि हरि बोल। So pranam to each one of you. Greetings from the Netherlands this time. So here we are after a beautiful gathering today with some brothers and sisters talking on tradition, the evolution of tradition, what is tradition, and the call for ever freshness in the context of being part of a lineage or living life for that matter. So we have been having some nice time these days. Yesterday we had a nice sharing with a few Franciscan brothers and sisters in a monastery, comparing notes, so to say, hopefully not comparing hearts, that's not a comparison game, exchanging hearts, exchanging notes, and it's going well here. So I hope it's going well on your side as well. And welcome to our weekly satsang on 1 hour earlier this time, since I'm in Europe time, and to be honest, it's a little bit too late, and I know maybe a little bit too late for you to join. Those who are in Europe, when we join 1 hour later. But in the midst of travels and other programs earlier, yeah, we have decided to make it at this time for the rest, almost the next coming 2 months while I'm in Europe. So welcome and thank you for the sacrifice of being here, adapting, adjusting. And as usual, we warmly invite you to bring anything that you may like to bring today to the table. Any preparation, any prasad. We cannot eat prasad in Zoom, so your prasad, your grace, prasad means grace, will be anything you may like to bring to the table of our conversation. We are all sitting. Try to visualize that. Those Zoom doesn't offer that yet. We're all sitting on a circle table, all from the same distance or the same proximity to the center, and from that place of fraternity, trying to nourish each other, enlighten each other. We dare to say so. Krishna dared to say so in the Bhagavad Gita, Bodhayanta Parashparam. So here we are, one more attempt. So you can raise your digital hand if you have questions, quest, exploration, sharings, however you may like to call it, ways of bringing presence, further presence to your presence, and creating hopefully more cohesiveness and communion among each one of us on the journey. So I'm seeing so far 2 raised hands. I saw a raised hand from Nanda Kumar first, but now it's unraised. So there is place for repentance, no problem. And there's place for raising your hand again, no problem. So I'm following what I'm seeing. So the first raised hand now is Manjulali Manjari from the UK. So we invite her to unmute yourself and welcome.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So I've been revisiting the teachings of Queen Kunti the other day, just reading some verses on the train. And, it talks about Krishna always protecting his devotees and how the devotee will embrace danger. So it just crossed my mind when I was thinking about, historically, some of the Russian devotees. I was thinking of one particular devotee who, lost his mind actually because of all the torture and atrocities that had been inflicted upon him under communism. And then I was also thinking about a couple who had a young girl who was kidnapped, and they suspected that she was kidnapped and held a sex trade. She was a devotee. So I just want to ask, how do we see Krishna in those situations? How do we see that Krishna is still protecting those devotees? Did Krishna abandon them?
Thank you. Thank you for bringing the topic, Manjulali Manjari. And those are the kind of, I will say, those are the kind of questions that we should not try to answer them easily or cheaply or quickly or dismissively, or how to say, with too much degree of certitude, like, yes, Krishna is protecting them, and I'm not saying he's not, but my point is not dismissing it the way Krishna protected them and that's it. Next question, right? Because that can also be disturbing.
Or it was their karma, which I found really,
Sorry?
or it's their karma, which is feels very difficult.
That's all. This is part of this bigger conversation of what sometimes is called theodicy, which means, okay, we are seeing suffering in the world, whether we are talking about devotees or devotees, and by devotees mean people, not only Gaudiya Vaishnavas, just in case, and people who are choosing not to worship, to adore God, and they're still suffering in the lives of both. And one may think, okay, God is loving, even in the case of people who are not spiritual practitioners. One may think, oh, right, we hear God is omnipresent, omniscient, omnibenevolent, omnipotent. At least that's what we hear. And so how can, that's the main reason why people is atheists, at least according to official research, is they say, well, evil and suffering in the world. If God is all potent, all loving, all everything, he will do something to prevent that. But he seems not to do it. So I choose to believe he does not exist. That's what many people will say. And on top of that, you're adding, of course, this extra layer of complexity, which is, okay, someone may say, oh, but which is in itself deserves its own conversation. And we have had it many times, and we can have it all the times we need, because many times we've talking about theodicy and omnipotence and karma and free will and how all these things relate to each other. And that's the biggest chapter of my next book. It's almost 1/3 of the whole book, trying to explain how, if God is all loving and all merciful, which we consider God is, then how to explain suffering in the context of, if we will say God can do anything and everything, why then God is not stopping some things? So what to speak if we are talking the lives of devotees, right? That's the other layer of complexity that you are bringing to the table, which is a necessary preparation in the menu. Though it may cause indigestion to some of us. Some of us may think, oh, that was not as sweet. You didn't bring a rasagula, Manjulali Manjari. Maharaj invited to bring some preparation, some prasad to the table, and you brought some neem leaves. That's bitter. Yeah, but there is medicine there as well, and that should be part of the menu. And there's always sweetness in between, so it's bittersweet if we want. So again, I'm saying all this as a prelude to whatever I will say, and still whatever I will say, I will still qualify it as there are no easy answers to that. I won't just invoke a cloud of uncertainty and mystery to say that's mystery and those are the ways of God and surrender, you sinner, or something like that. I won't say that. But also, as you know, I said many times, and of course I'm talking in general because you have given some specific examples, and I cannot talk for any of those examples in the sense of, yeah, their karmic trajectories, this and that, and they did this and that. I mean, how much we know about that. So there is a place where we genuinely can and must say, I don't know how, not I don't know it at all. We will say, from our experience and from the experience of so many, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, not Gaudiya Vaishnavas, God's unconditional love remains unconditional, remains present, which that doesn't mean that you will be protected in the ways you think that unconditional love will protect you. Because still we idealize protection. We have an idea of what protection is or how it looks like from our particular picture. This not happening, or this happening. And of course, then comes the faith crisis with some of those things happen, and we thought Krishna's protection entails preventing this from happening in my life or in other people's lives. And again, everyone will have their own idea of that. I can bring my own idea. For example, I can say, okay, the day I got initiated the first time in my life by a guru, I sincerely tried to surrender, and the last thing I thought is that I will have to take a distance from that person. But that happened, and Krishna didn't protect me from that happening, so to say, right? I'm not making, it's not that I felt like that, but someone could bring that argument. They could bring that idea of protection. No? You follow my point? So each one of us, our ideas of how protection should look like, while Krishna has his own idea of how protection should look like, and it's part of our surrender and trust, not blindly, but that protection still comes even when some things happen where they look not as protection. They look as loss, they look as betrayal, they look as so many other horrible things, we will say. And many times the question is, again, how protection is still coming, how unconditional love is still showed in those moments. And again, these are delicate topics, especially if some of us are going through some delicate moment of whatever, loss, betrayal, abuse, trauma. I don't want to be insensitive to that, right? But I will say that according to the tradition and according to the teachings, and I will say in my case, according to personal experience, and I can only talk for me, I'm not talking for anyone else here. Even in the midst of loss and betrayal and all these horrible things that you never expected, the lesson at the end of the day is that God's love is more powerful than all that stuff put together, so to say. If we are open to see it and receive it in the midst of all the horrible things that may come as a result of people's free will, and so on and so forth. So I'm not someone who will say Krishna arranged for those Russian devotees to go through that as his mercy. I won't say that because sometimes I've heard that many times. Like, okay, Krishna's arranging that. I don't know, some devotees. I mean, we know of devotees having gone through torture. So you can say, oh, Krishna's protecting them by arranging the torture. I mean, that's too much of a stretch of an imagination to see all that as protection, right? Imagine if I say, I will protect you fully. I will be arranging a few tortures here and there, but that's also my protection. You will be like, this guy is strange. I will be dating someone else, so to say. So again, and this is the whole conversation that needs to be had over and over again, which is how much Krishna can participate in my life without fully canceling my free will, because that's an important conversation. It's not an easy one, and it's not someone, in my opinion, that I feel many people spend enough time with it to not take it sentimentally. Because again, many times I've heard about saying Krishna's arrangement to the point that he can do anything and everything. But if we say Krishna can do anything and everything in every sense of the term, technically speaking, we have no free will then. Because if at any moment he can interrupt and cancel anything, and he can do anything and everything, he can make me stop existing. It's like, no, that's not the teaching, right? Whatever exists will always exist, say the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, Krishna can do so many things, incredible things, endless things, infinite possibilities, without a framework of non-absurdity. And of course, he achintya shakti, things that can be contradictory from our perspective, but not to the point like, okay, Krishna can stop existing if he wants, right? Krishna eventually can make all the jivas in existence disappear. No. So omnipotence cannot be like that hyperbolic, that degree of exaggerated omnipotence. He can do unlimited things within a certain context, which is not limiting him. He's unlimited within the context of coherence, of operating as he is. So still each one of us have our free will, and still other people have free will, and that makes things even more complicated. We have enough with our own free will, right? What to do with my free will? I mean, let's be honest. The moment you sit and you realize I have responsibility on my own life, that can feel heavy. That can freeze us to realize the basic fact that whatever choices you take will create a particular result, and you have to take responsibility for that. Many of us feel overwhelmed just by that. Which I'm not criticizing anyone. I'm just saying, just by that, and on top of that, you are surrounded by endless other people who also have free will, and by their exercise of free will, one is affecting each other. But you need that to happen, as risky as that is, for the possibility of love to remain real. That's the complexity of it all. Because if you say, why Krishna doesn't prevent all these things from happening, because if he has to in order to do so, he has to cancel everyone's free will. And if that's the case, there's no more love, because love is a voluntary action and you need free will for that. So there you are in that complex situation. Okay, then for love to be there has to be free will, and the jiva is endowed, the soul is endowed with kartritva, or free will or agency, as Jiva Goswami will say repeatedly in Priti Sandarbha, Paramatma Sandarbha. That's part of our constitution. That's an ontological attribute of the soul. So if you take out free will, there's no more soul, basically. And that's not possible. So it's not possible to cancel free will, and it's not possible to cancel love, which needs free will. But free will or agency, again, whatever word we use, entails the risk that free will be used, well, in different ways, and sometimes the exercise of our or others' free will entail the possibility of suffering, trouble, whatever. And again, Krishna cannot prevent that, because if he will do so, there's no more free will. Sorry to repeat myself. So if there's no more free will, then what? There's no more soul, which is made of free will. There's no more love, which has to be voluntarily chosen. So if there's no more free will, there's no more soul. If there's no more free will, there's no more love, and God is love, so there's no more God. So everyone stopped existing, basically, which is absurd. So the actual reality is that no, love is real, God is real, we are real. But for that to happen, there needs to be this freedom for love to remain voluntary, and that entails the risk, if you want to use that word, of people choosing different things. Whether the devotees, going to your examples, the devotees choosing certain things in their life and creating some result, or the people who is killing, chastising, torturing them, they're exercising the free will, right? So, and I remember one quote from Prabhupada that I'm sharing in my next book, that someone is asking him, let's see if I have it to share it with you literally. It may take some time. Give me a moment. Take a few moments to internalize what we shared so far. Well, a few. One Prabhupada is saying, love is reciprocal and voluntary. Then there is love. No? Like implying, if it's not reciprocal and voluntary, then there's not love. So love is reciprocal and voluntary. Then there is love, not by force. God does not want to become a lover like that. You love me, otherwise I shall kill you. Because you are the Son of God, you have got independence. So God does not interfere with your little independence. If you persist that I must go and enjoy independently, God says, all right, you can go and enjoy. But the bigger picture is, someone has independence, so God will not interfere with independence, because if not, love stops being voluntary. And this is the one I want to share. It's a paragraph. It says, Srila Prabhupada once illustrated, well, I was talking about karma and how karma not necessarily means what happens on the outside, but how we perceive things internally. He says, Prabhupada once asked whether one should passively accept an attack as a deserved karmic reaction, right? Because if we say, okay, whatever happens is your karma, some will say, then I should just sit and allow people to beat me or whatever. So someone asked that to him, and Prabhupada replied, it may be that somebody is attacking even though you do not deserve. And therefore you have got intelligence, you have got hands, you must try to protect. But the point here is, it may be that you may receive something that you do not deserve. So I wouldn't necessarily qualify as, I don't know, a devotee going through, again, I'm talking in general, I cannot speak for any specific case, but someone may be receiving an attack. It doesn't mean it was their karma. It was just their free will interacting with someone else's free will, with all the risk that it entails. And in that context, Krishna is still protecting. If he may not be protecting, he may not be able to prevent certain particular thing from happening, because if that's the case, you are canceling free will with all the problems that I already said 108 times. But he will still be protecting in ways that may be invisible to the objective situation, to what happened, but he will be manifesting in ways that may be beyond our imagination and may remain mysterious. But I think many of those who have gone through those situations and have opened themselves to, how to say, not to over idealize in advance how Krishna will protect me, they have been able to discover Krishna's presence and protection in incredible ways. So again, there's no easy answer. That's as much as I will say as much as I can, like put the thing as clearly and concretely as I can. And you are not forced, none of you are forced to agree with me. I know it's a complex topic, touchy subject, but I think it deserves conversation, ongoing conversation, rather than, of course, easy answers, right? Like, yeah, no, yeah, we don't know. At the end of the day, we may end up still saying there's a part that is a mystery and there's a part that we do not know. But at least we have to make as good as an effort as we can to try to unpack all the things that we are trying to unpack, even if we conclude saying the same words. One point, I don't know. One point, the details of how Krishna is protecting his devotee at every given circumstance. It's something very personal, very intimate between God and his devotee. But he's given that reassurance and promise over and over again, right? Name bhakta pranashyati, neha brikramana susti pratyabhayana vidyate, right? Whatever is acquired is not lost, it's not diminished, or Arjuna declared that mere devotee never purges, and so on and so forth. So I'm not denying any of those things. I'm just saying in some situations when it seems that's not happening, that's still happening in ways we may not imagine, in ways may not seem obvious, but we may experience them, especially if we've gone through some of that. I can just speak for myself and say, as much as I've gone through, as much as you can call tragedy, what I've gone through in some parts of my life, I can bear witness to Krishna's protection and nourishment. And again, protection doesn't mean preventing something from happening. No, that's my point. Because at the end of the day, if not, we are still want to be in control of how Krishna's protection should look like and what should happen, and we should trust that he's seeing a bigger picture than the one we are seeing. And on the other end, we should try to understand all these other things related to free will, karma, God's participation in our life, what omnipotency looks like in the context of all that. So there are many things. It's a big puzzle to try to make sense of, as much as we can make sense of it rationally, so to say, or through words. So I don't know if some of that means something.
Yeah. It's incredibly helpful. A very rich response. Very helpful. Thank you. I'm just thinking of someone who gave Bible class and was saying that a murderer, it was their karma to murder someone, and I really disagreed with it. And then we got into a bit of a disagreement where I said that just negates complete responsibility and personal responsibility, free will, etc. So it was very black and white. No, it was their karma to be a murderer. It was their karma that that child was abused, and that was the end of the conversation. So I really appreciated, just the level of thought and compassion in your response, much broader. It's very helpful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And of course, again, I'm not trying to make you think like I do, but at least I will say, even if we end up disagreeing on some of us on the nuances of a complex conversation like this, at least we should be willing to have the conversation and to keep having the conversation, because these are not easy ones, and those are the ones that may require ongoing returning to the conversation. I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I spoke about this, and I'm not complaining, like saying, again, Manjula and Manjari are making me talk about this again. I'm not saying that, because always also something new comes and some new layer of internalizing comes for me also, not only for you, hopefully. But so, yeah, I think it's in itself healthy to keep the door open for the conversation. That in itself, for me, is a sign of hope and health. Even if things remain difficult, things remain unknowable, things remain complex, but at least we know we can talk about it. And also we are willing to explore the conversation without rushing into easy yes or easy no's, right? And much less, hopefully, not canceling the conversation. There's no need to cancel any conversation. So thank you for that. And given the nature of the theme and the importance of continuing to share that and sharing perspectives as enriching and enlightening each other, I'm thinking we can go to the breakout rooms. I think it's an important topic for all of us to continue sharing. So Bhakti Rasa will create them now. invited to accept if you want, to share in groups of 3 or 4, more intimately, more privately. And those who cannot join for any reason, you can spend some time sitting with the topic or seeing what lands inside. And see you back in a few minutes. Okay, you're back. Welcome. Happy landing back. Hoping you had a safe trip, good journey, sharing with each other. Before going to Rasangi's question, I'm as usual inviting whomever would like, if you like to share any particular insights or treasures that you found in your personal reflection, if you're by yourself, when you're private sharing, if you are in groups, something that is worthy of being extended as a gift to the community, that is not too private, too personal to be made public. I don't know if anyone feels that call. You can also raise your digital hand. I'll keep Rasangi's raised hand in mind for us for the question, but Jamuna is raising both hands, digital and non-digital, so she will have to bring 2 treasures, not 1 now.
Okay, I'll bring 2.
That's a
I
prize.
raised
The double
this just
hand.
in case you thought I was asking a question. So I was with Shilpa Karini and Gauracharan and Tapana Nandini. And this is a topic that I've been, Krishna Kumari, who's not here today, and I've been discussing. And she found these gems in regards to karma, because one of the things that came up is that we seem to have a big emphasis simply on karma. It's your fault. This is what you get. So she came up with through Srila Prabhupada's books and your books, Maharaj, that we have our own karma. Then there's the karma of others. There's collective karma according to when you were born. There's natural laws, the free will of other beings, even chance interactions within the material world, and divine grace and divine arrangement. And so it's very complex, and there's just been like a heavy, not even heavy, just only an emphasis on that, and how it kind of kills compassion. Gautran was saying how it creates impersonalism, because you don't have an empathetic heart. You're not nurturing an empathetic heart. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. I also mentioned that it's nearby the part of that I read, that quote in the Gita, that when the Krishna Gita speaks about the different ingredients in any action, and he's bringing all this list of various elements, so to say, God's grace and the Jiva's free will and the gunas and this and that. So generally, if we are too reductionistic, we make the whole conversation lack nuance, and it's all reduced to whatever, it's your karma. And again, in that loss of nuance, we lose a bigger part of reality. We're amputating reality and just chopping and selecting one part and saying it's your karma. And of course, that ends up being not only inaccurate, but not compassionate, not genuinely genuine approach to reality, which is complex, right? Complex doesn't mean bad. Complex means there are many things coexisting at the same time, and we have to be careful not to try to be simplistic. Simple living, but not simple living, high thinking, right? So not simple living, simplistic thinking. Try to think, try with as much as capacity as we have, but let's be careful not to be reductionistic, and in the name of keeping things simple, we are leaving too many parts of reality outside of the picture, and then we end up being, again, it's your karma, reducing everything to one-liners, right? So yeah, thank you for that, and thanks Krishna Kumari for that as well. Kanupriya, you have something to share?
Yes, I was reflecting, and then I was wondering, because you mentioned that this free will everyone has, That's a bad connection. So this free will everyone has might then be the reason why we experience something we do not deserve. Would that include also illness? Or if someone is strongly handicapped, could we then also say because we are not the body, they are just genes or whatever? Because I often have discussions with my husband and he says, I don't agree that this is karma if a child is, or whoever is handicapped, someone is born handicapped or disabled. What would you say about these?
To be honest, I think hopefully what I will say doesn't sound evasive, but for me the real thing is, at the end of the day, the real thing is not so much about whether that is your karma or not, but how we respond to that particular situation. Because as we say, how much we can know about what everyone did in the past and what's corresponding to their previous action. We don't have like a perfect map of the trajectory of every single living being in every lifetime. So in one sense, we are encountering a particular case, a particular situation, whatever it may be. And the real question for me is not so much, is it your karma or not, but how can I meet you where you are now? Because if not, whether I say yes, it's your karma, no, it's your karma, still your reaction to that person should be the same. No, empathic, compassionate, loving. So in that sense, I say it doesn't matter that much how much you can say it's your karma or not. To begin with, how much we can say literally it is not. But at the end of the day, even let's hypothetically say it was your karma 100%. Let's make it too very simplistic. Like, I don't know, in your previous lifetime, you harmed someone and made that person handicapped, and in this lifetime, you are handicapped. Which I'm not saying that that's how literally things will work, but let's throw it as an example. Even if that's the case, we are invited to respond to that person in the exact same way. That, you follow my point? It's not like, okay, you're handicapped in this lifetime, so because in your previous lifetime you handicapped someone else, then I won't be so compassionate with you. But if you're handicapped in this lifetime because you didn't make someone else handicapped, then I will be more compassionate with you. That's not the point, right? Because if not, we get trapped in this measuring system and counting and earning and deserving. And if we do that, we are the first one to lose the game. Right? If we are told how much you did is your career, I mean, I'm the loser to begin with if I start to see others from that place. So at the end of the day, we are all in need of mercy and compassion. So even if what we are encountering is literally the other person's full karma, who can say, but let's say, then that should invoking the person's full karma and full karmic reaction should invoking you full compassion and full mercy. Right? So that's for me the main point, because sometimes we get stuck in, or saying it's your karma, but we become indifferent and cruel and not compassionate, or trying to dissect, is it the karma, it's not the karma, how much of karma, like if that will, depending on the proportion, that will determine how we react to the person. And none of that has to do with the unconditional love we are trying to develop and cultivate. If I really care for unconditional love, I will try to have most of my attention in that direction. How to love unconditionally. And unconditionally means it doesn't matter if it's your karma, if it's not your karma, it's 35% and 65 the environment, blah, 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 blah. Unconditional means I don't care for the conditions, from the precondition, I'm willing to encounter this situation, this person with as much heart as I can. So again, I hope this doesn't sound like I'm evading the topic, but hopefully trying to bring home, like, at the end of the day, what we are being called to. So that will be my answer today. Kind of answer.
Thank you. No, very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Seems that it's a churning hot topic. We have more raised hands. We will get to you, Rasangi. Be patient. We are all getting enriched here. So Manjwali, please. Welcome.
I was with Radhapriya and she's got her hand up, so maybe we should both speak together. But we were talking about compassion and love, and even in the Shastra, you know, bad things, the gopis would be crying and worried that Krishna would get thorns on his feet when he was walking through the forest, or Mother Yashoda be worried that Krishna would fall over or some demon would carry him off, you know. So there's always this tension of protection and worry. And we were just reflecting how free will and compassion are connected in the sense because it's all based on love. And so we were just you know, saying that when things are challenging in our life and when we try to figure it out and we have such a limited view of how you know, how to figure it out, we just we go to the place that Krishna's hand, even though we don't see it sometimes, is there. And that actually, if we can develop a compassionate heart to the suffering of the world and the suffering that comes our way, it gives us, it strengthens our faith and helps us to feel personally connected to our own dramas, but also to humanity, because suffering is one of the things that we're all going to have to meet in incarnation, and that the suffering by our attitude and by our prayer and by our witness actually can be transformed with a compassionate heart. And yeah, so Radhapriya will say much better than I can what we were sharing, but it was really a deep, wonderful connection that actually our free will, as you said, there's no free will, no love, and it's all about relationship. And that relationship is how we grow and how we see actually Krishna's hand in our darkest moments, and they draw out soft, compassionate heart and empathy for all that suffer.
Thank you. It makes me think of one quote from Viktor Frankl, again going to someone who went through something complex, and he will say in his Man's Search for Meaning, like he said, this is the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. No, like in other words, that can never be taken away from us, even if some external situations limit us externally. Like, I don't know, I'm put into a room and locked in, and I cannot escape. It's unavoidable for me to escape. I cannot, but still I have a choice about how do I want to react to that. No, that phrase has been paraphrased somehow popularly by like something like, between stimulus and response there is a space, and in that space it's our power to choose. Yes. Our response, and in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So we always have that. Nobody can take that away from us, even if externally people may try to limit certain aspects of our will. Still we have our power to choose, and again, still Krishna has, of course, his power to protect and to become present in ways that we may that ways that are according to the particular situation. In the same way that we are in a particular situation, as I say, I'm taken by a gang and put into a room. It was not my plan, but I'm there. I cannot leave, but still I have a choice. I can have a choice of how do I choose to react to that. So in the same way, Krishna is in a situation where certain things, as I say, he cannot do without canceling free will. But as we have a choice to how to react to that, he has a choice in how to extend his mercy, love, and protection in very creative ways that surpass our imagination for sure. So, and we have to be open to that.
Thank you.
Brother Priya, you all now have the challenge to improve what Manjwali just said, because that was what that's how she presented what you want to share.
Well, there was the phrase that I couldn't remember in the conversation, para dukkha dukhi, how a right devotee feels others' sufferings and feels others' pleasures. And we do, like Jamuna had said, we've had experience of philosophizing, which makes the heart harder, which is the opposite of what a devotional heart is. And when I was speaking with Manjwali, I experience, like I can say when in my own suffering where I have found, although it's in a kind of mystical way that I don't expect, I'm just suffering, but somehow the Lord appears in a way that I would never have known. But when I see somebody else suffering, especially an innocent child or who doesn't have that choice of how to respond, but seems more to be simply like out of their own depth in a suffering, to witness, to not close my eyes to the sufferings and pains, and to also know that through all of that, everybody is unconditionally loved all the time.
Mm.
In discussing that, I felt my heart grow.
Mm.
I felt my love grow to be able to hold those two things at the same time. The impossible suffering and the immeasurable love. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. And that's a complexity, the creative tension, the holding of these polarities. It reminds me, I'm looking for a quote that I included in my coming book from Cole Arthur Riley. That is famous one. He says, to maintain imagination for both the beautiful and the terrible is to marry prudence and hope. Right? In other words, like to hold both things inside. Now, it's not like because Krishna's unconditional love is there, I will become indifferent to suffering and I will become so transcendental that I only talk about unconditional love. No. But also not that I'm zooming into the horrors and tragedy to the point that I lose sight of the beauty and the love that still is existing, omnipresent, especially in all places, and also especially in those places. So it's a holding of these two things that many times is complex. Sometimes we will prefer just to go for one of those, and we go for one of those many times. But yeah, keeping both in creative tension, so to say, is the challenge and the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Shilpa Karini, you also were raising your hand. Something you would like to share from the breakout rooms?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Krishna Maharaj.
Welcome, and then we go to Rasangi's question.
Yeah, it was about, like the experience with devotees being a little bit hard-hearted because of others' happenings in life. And I think what it also needs is some people went through traumas and whatever. And it means I don't think devotees saying, yeah, you just have to chant more rounds and it goes away. And I don't think it just goes away by chanting more rounds or sometimes it actually really needs, I would say, therapy, like therapy, I don't know, normal therapy. I mean, and that's also, I think, a big thing which I found that devotees are sometimes really hard-hearted and say, yeah, just chant your rounds and it goes away. And no, some people are really traumatized. Or, for example, in ISKCON, the Gokulis also, it's like a big traumatization what happened, and that just doesn't go away.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, we've talked about that many times, and we may need to talk about that many times. And we are not talking about, of course, all Gaudiya Vaishnavas or everyone, but we know that those patterns may exist. Again, going to something reductionistic and simplistic, right? Chant your rounds and don't bother with all this stuff, all these complicated topics and suffering and karma. Just get the daily number or increase it. And it may not be with bad intention. It may be actually unconsciously spiritual bypassing, because because if I open myself to that topic in the other, that opens myself to the topic in myself, and many times we don't want to see to confront all that complexity. But yeah, it's common sense, right? If I have my arm cut and it's bleeding, I won't chant more rounds so the bleeding stops, right? It's just common sense that I will go to a doctor, or I will do the necessary for the bleeding to stop, which is not chanting more rounds, right? So in the same way, if my psychic body is bleeding, let's put it that way, I will go to someone who can assist me in that. And this not to undermine the potency and the influence of the name and the effects it can have. And of course, there are degrees of faith in the name, and some people may really embrace the practice and the sadhana in ways that are not bypassing, not evasive, and they can be able to reach certain healing and results that some others may not need, and may need to complement with some healing modality. And again, I'm not saying one is better than the other. One has to find what works better for yourself. That's what I will say. It's not here about comparing, oh, those who do not go to the psychologist have more faith, or stuff like that, because it can all be part of bhakti, right? And we should stop weaponizing ideas, weaponizing sadhana, right? Like, do more sadhana. It's like, I'm hungry, Maharaj, chant more rounds. It's not, it makes nonsense, right? Like, I've not been, you have been keeping me fasting for 3 days. Well, the fact that you are hungry means you are identified with your body. Keep chanting more and be disidentified, you will be no longer be hungry. And you'll be soon be dead, probably. But anyhow, right? I'm tired, I need to sleep. No, chant more rounds. That's the result for just, of course, I'm making a little bit of a drama here, but just to make the point that no, sometimes we need to attend the situation, to attend it with a professional, to take whatever steps we need in whatever healing modality works better for us, because there's not only one way of addressing that also. Because also I've seen the opposite then. Everyone has to go to the psychologist, and it's like, wait, that's not necessarily true. Or everyone needs to to do a shamanic ceremony with ayahuasca, or everyone needs to do this ecstatic dancing or 5 rhythm, or everyone has to, and at the end of the day, we keep doing the same thing, but from another place. Right? Like, everyone needs to be doing that. Everyone needs to find their best way to heal and work, and whatever works for them, that's great. It may be work for me, may not, so to say. So yeah, I totally agree, Shilpakarini. We should be very careful not to go in the world giving prescriptions to other people about how many more rounds they should chant for all their problems to be solved, so to say. Because in many of those cases, I can tell you, many people that I've talked, they told me, I followed that advice, I increased the number, I ended up hating chanting. I'm having my faith affected, because also whatever I needed to heal was not healing, and it's not the fault of the name, of course. So we have also to apply common sense and discernment as human beings. And again, my arm is bleeding, I'll go to a doctor. If my psyche, emotional dimension needs support and healing, I'll take the necessary steps. It can all be bhakti. Sangha Siddha Bhakti, Jiva Swami says. Activities which are not by constitution bhakti can become bhakti if we engage in them in the service of our project, our bhakti project. So yeah. Anyway, thank you to all for the input. It's an important topic, and we explore some extra branches of it. And now we move to the next sharing, official question, official exploration from Rasangi. So you are invited to unmute yourself. Welcome.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you. I just wanted to say that I loved your class on Yama and Niyamas. I think you covered so much territory in that one class. It was so broad and helpful, and I could feel in the room the joy of people and relief in their
happy.
questions.
Yeah, they were happy.
Yeah, right. I could feel
and
it.
I never gave in my life a class on Jama Niyama. That was funny.
It was palpable, though, that these people were, wow, yeah, they woke up, they were perked up, and so grateful. So I appreciate that class a lot. If you haven't heard it, listen. And I have one thing to say. This last topic is definitely a hot potato. And I wanted to say, although near-death experiences, it's not a mystical tradition necessarily, a sister tradition. These experiences are being studied at universities all over the world by neuroscientists and psychologists. And the understanding of people when they have that and they come back is that they've designed their lives in such a way to be able to meet the challenges and expand their capacity to love. So I don't, you know what I mean? To me, it makes sense, Maharaj. And not only that, we have amongst our own tribe here people who have had those experiences and remember that happening. So in order for us not to feel victimized, like I don't like to feel victimized by life or anything. And it's helped me not to feel that and to continue to try to find the love among the differences and the challenges, like Manjuali and Radhapriya were saying. So just if you're curious about that, there's so many wonderful people, and they're very reputable, scientifically documented medical records that they were dead and came back. and they reported this from another realm. I don't know where that exactly is, but it's somewhere, and they learned a lot, and they felt unconditional love, and they learned that the key to life is to love themselves. So it kind of goes along with what we're studying here. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you for listening and tolerating that. And then my question is,
there was a question. Oh, okay.
We have a lot of questions from our reading group.
First, you started with a promotion of my class on Yama Niyama, then with an appreciation and comment, and now comes, okay, that's a full package. Rasangi always brings full package to the table.
I mean,
before your question, something that I like to briefly mention in regards to what you just say, which I really appreciate, the near-death experience, is that also that those stories, that there are so many, and as you say, they are more and more documented and very transformative, is basically kind of a mystical experience that most people have, and most of them relate to unconditional love. It also shows that death is not the end of the story, as obvious as this may sound to all of us, but many times when we try to understand a particular situation of, oh, this person died in this way, this happened, where was the protection? Because we think that somehow we put an end to the person's story right there, because that's as much as we know, right? But many times in these cases of those who died by their return, we realize, oh, there was so much that we never knew, we will have never known about if they will not returned and told the story. So in that gives us a glimpse of how, if you will, in the concept of Manjulali Manjari's original question, how Krishna's grace also is appearing, manifesting in ways where you are clinically dead, and in this case maybe not returning to tell the story, but how the story unfolds after leaving this body, especially again knowing that someone, if this near-death experience happens to many people who are not actually necessarily dedicating their life to spiritual search, then what to speak of? No, that will be the Kaimutya Nyaya in Sanskrit. Like, if this is like this to these people, then what to speak of? Someone who has dedicated their life in certain way, even if the external last scene of the movie didn't look quite tragic, that's not the end of the story, right? So yeah, just want to say that.
Yeah, Maharaj, too. The thing is that there's some hard and fast material scientists, doctors, these people are becoming believers that consciousness is separate than the body. That's being proven day after day now.
I wouldn't say even that they are becoming believers, but they have first-hand experience, so they don't need to believe or not believe.
Yes.
They just had the experience, so it's undeniable.
And
the word belief is no longer necessary.
I mean,
I'm saying that because I'm reading this book now.
Oh.
So you can imagine I'm a lot about in terms of belief. This is the author.
Of course.
That's the author of Finite and Infinite Games that I talked about recently. Anyhow, your question, Rasangi.
Yeah, anyway, I'm so excited. That is very exciting for the planet, I think, that these people are becoming awakened to the idea of a soul. Yes. Anyway, my questions come from our reading group.
Questions. You say
What?
plural now.
Well, unless there's other questions,
Well, I'm seeing Mukunda raising his hand. You have a question, Mukunda, also? Okay, well, no, we have another question from Mukunda, so let's keep it singular, Rasangi.
Okay, this is so important.
Your question ended with N, not with S after the end. Your
Okay,
question.
okay. There's so many questions. We read together for an hour and a half a week, and we come up with so many questions.
That's why you have sisterhood, and you can meet each other privately.
No, we want to hear what you have to say. We do that too. We do that too. All right. The question is, so you talk in chapter 3, but the soul is changeless. We were reading that yesterday. And then you talk about liminality and marginality. And we're kind of understanding that, there's the changelessness has to do with that we don't die, we're not born, we don't decay. That's changeless. But the potential that we have is unlimited. So we're talking about liminality. And one question was, are we always liminal? Do we ever not be liminal? Because liminality means that we're affected by change, where we have a nature to be receptive or reactive to change.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that must exist in the spiritual realm as well.
Mm-hmm.
But do we lose our attraction here and never be attracted again to the material side of it? But the real question is, I know you're going to get mad. This one sentence.
We'll have a private conversation after today's satsang, Rasangi. That's as much as I can say.
Okay. This one question and this one. Indeed, the potential of any being cannot be fully understood apart from its relationships with others. So to me that, and to all of us, that was mind-blowing. That we have how important our relationships are, Maharaj, in this whole thing, that it's the catalyst. Without relationships, there's no expansion of love. Is that right?
Yes, and that's my answer. There you have it. It took some time, but I reached the yes, Rasangi. But I'm joking. I will say something else. I will not leave you that frustrated, of course.
Thank you so much. And it's for all of us. There were 9 of us yesterday going deep and questioning and just relishing everything so much. Okay.
I'm happy that you're having a good time getting together. Yeah, I mean, you said it all in one sense, but yeah, we are relational beings. So in one sense, we shouldn't even say we have relationships, but we are relationship. No, because we do not. That's sambandha. Sambandha is the foundational knowledge that you exist in relationship, or you do not exist at all. And since you cannot stop existing, as we said, you are always in relationship, whether we are aware of not. Of course, we can enter into a trip of alienation and I'm not related to anyone, and we can feel that psychologically. That was what we were talking yesterday with the Franciscan brother Theo, that our experience of loneliness is psychological. But ontologically, there's no loneliness. Ontologically means in our core being, in who we are, there's no possibility of loneliness because we exist in relationship to the center and to everything else. So psychologically, we experience that we may experience loneliness, but in our core being, there's no possibility of loneliness because everything exists in relationship. So yeah, in relationship is how everything happens, because we are units of relationality. We are not independent. Nothing exists isolated, not us, nor anything. We cannot even speak about Krishna existing separate, so to say. Even sometimes in the beginning of some Vedas, you have these ideas of, okay, in the beginning, we will say technically there's no beginning, but it's a way of putting that in the beginning God was one and he became many. And sometimes we'll say like he longed for relationship. And again, that's a way of putting a story to make the point that even God, so to say, gets bored by himself. That's why for us, it's not only Krishna and Radha. So now the two of them have fun. It's not enough Krishna and Radha. There's a whole retinue of associates and people, and everything is included in that. And everything and everyone ultimately is connected to that. So yeah, I mean, we maybe other traditions will speak about non-relationality, and there's only Brahman, no, in radical non-dualism. Shankaracharya's proposal will be like, actually there's no relationality because there is no one else to relate to. No, strictly speaking, their philosophy is there's nobody and nothing to relate to because there's only one thing, which is you and which is everything else. I'm not criticizing here anything. I'm just exposing other stances, but ours is deeply relational. So we cannot even begin to talk without acknowledging that everything that is happening at every stage of our journey is in the context of relationship. Whether, again, we want to accept that or not, we want to acknowledge it or not, we do not exist outside of relationship. So again, Sambandha Gyan is the initial education for us to gain that awareness. We do not exist outside of relationship, which I think is a very beautiful, powerful insight to the great wave of crisis in the world of loneliness and isolation and separateness, and people in the age of hyperconnectivity, people is feeling more lonely than ever, paradoxically. So it's so important to acknowledge that paradox and to bring ideas and ways of practices and ways of realizing how connected we actually already are, though we may feel otherwise, and how to bring that in an embodied way, in a very experiential way, for people to feel interconnected, to feel they belong, again, belonging. So yeah, that's something that I would like to say today in response to your invitation, Rasangi. Thank you for that.
Thank you. I needed that verified today. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, and regarding something you said before, though you didn't make a question out of it, but something that comes to my mind is also, of course, in the liminality of Tatastha Shakti. It's not about word liminality, it's just we are prone to be influenced. No, Srila Siddhar Maharaj will say we are a byproduct of the environment, in his own words. So that will mean, okay, we can be affected by Maya Shakti on some level, because we will not, our core constitution doesn't become touched, so to say, by illusion, but we can become distracted of who we actually are without changing who we actually are. So that will be one side of the liminality. The jiva can be influenced by that and distracted from their actual identity. But also we can talk in a, if you will, more positive way. We can be affected positively by Swarup Shakti, by Bhakti, by love. And that can bring so many waves of dynamism and change and movement in love, right? So there will be change in love. Love doesn't change. Whenever someone, let's say, develops love, that doesn't change. Sthayi bhav, it's a fixed state. But that thing that never changes at that point, that you are a lover of the divine and of everything, brings forth so much nuance and newness to that, right? So there's change within that which never changes, so to say. Like I always give the example, I don't know, you can be in Vrindavan and you say, okay, this is the river, we always call it Yamuna. No, the river Yamuna. We won't call it with different, I mean, well, that's not maybe the best example, because in our tradition we will call Yamuna with different names, right? Kalindi and so on. Let's go to another country outside of India. In Argentina, they have Rio de la Plata, like Silver River or something like that. So you always call it Rio de la Plata. But the river is always different. It's not that you bathe in Rio de la Plata and it's always the same river you are bathing, like they say in Greece, right? You never bathe in the same river twice. But you always call the same river with the same name. So in the same day, there's one and different. So it's changeless and ever evolving, what I'm trying to explain in the book, right? So there's our liminality allows for a deep, fixed situation of embracing love and becoming. Jiva Goswami uses the word tadatmya. Now, with the Tatastha Shakti, fully comes under the shelter of the Swarup Shakti, which Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter, Mahatmanas tumam partam daivi prakritim ashritaha. When we take shelter under the divine nature, bhakti, the Tatastha Shakti becomes tadatmik with Swarup Shakti. And tadatmya in this case implies oneness, but not eliminating identity. So retaining who we are, Tatastha Shakti continues to be Tatastha Shakti, but becomes fully enveloped by Swarup Shakti. And he gives the classical Tadatmya example, which is the iron bar put in fire. So you put the iron bar in fire, it acquires all the properties of fire, becomes fire-like, but still remains iron bar, although for intents and purposes it's operating as fire. So in the same way, even if we attain Golok Vrindavan, let's put it that way, and you're serving Krishna the Lila for the rest of forever, you still are Tatastha Shakti, but fully engrossed in Swarup Shakti. No? So in that sense, one, you remain Tatastha Shakti, if you want to call it liminal, but you are fully embraced by Tatastha Shakti, and it's an embrace that will never leave you, basically, right? And there's ever evolving change in the newness of that love. So okay, that's it. We have now I see two raised hands, one from Mukunda and one from Divyangana. So I think we still have time for that. I'll skip this breakout room with or without your permission, and we'll go to Mukunda's question offering, and then probably we'll go to breakout room and then to Divyangana's exploration. Welcome, Mukund.
Radhe Radhe, Dhanavad Pranams.
Greetings to Leela.
There's Leela.
Leela ji.
She's a little fussy, so I'll ask a quick question and maybe slip in a couple comments. Question is basically, what is the foundational understanding of Vaishnava altar practice? When other traditions call it idolatry. Just wondering, what is it, both the ontological perspective as well as the method? So it's like, if there is a swarup, and so then 3 words within it is Satchitananda Vigraha, Pratik, and Swarup. I've always heard Swarup, and that's been really easy for me to interface with, because the reality internally, externally, and in such a way. So that's the basic question. It came up because there's a visiting Swami who was talking about it. Can I slip in 3 comments? I don't need to.
Slip in 3 comments.
Yeah.
But you have them written down.
I've got them straight away, 10 seconds at most each.
Yeah, of course.
Leela and I have been listening to your Radical Personalism retreat online, 7 videos. We're 90% of the way through. I've been surprised that I haven't heard the use of the etymology of the word person. Seems super useful for describing Radical Personalism. That was comment 1.
Oh, so those are comments that go in another direction with other topics.
In another direction. The second one was in response to when I arrived to the class. Okay. The devastation Okay, I don't need to.
Yeah, I thought there were comments that you will send written form in connection to your question. So I would prefer to address your first question, because if not, we'll go in 4 different directions, and
that's it.
It will be a little bit a wild ride with 4 horses running north, south, east, and west. So
well,
we can go to the
4
first
horses
one.
on Krishna's chariot of the Bhagavad Gita. But thank you, Swami, for hearing the question.
But keep those, for now, keep those other 3 for future meetings. Yeah, but yeah, let's keep one per one. So regarding Murti Seva or Archana or altar worship, however we may like to address it, of course, that's a big conversation, a big topic. That's one of the main angas of bhakti, or one of the main expressions of bhakti, though not the only one. But one of those is, adoring. I like more the word adoring than worshiping. Worshiping brings a little bit more of distance between the altar and me. So adoring is more like adorable, right? In this case, I like Spanish because worshiping and adoring is the same word in Spanish, is adorar, and it's more close to adoring. So sometimes English serves better, but sometimes, let's be fair. So ontologically, well, the foundational understanding behind Murti Seva or Archana, and there are many, of course, and there's a Swamiji visiting there, maybe you would like to ask him about it. And there are many books written about that. There's a nice book by Krishna Kshetra Maharaj on Archana, and scholarly book, ontologically, Krishna Seva, I think is the name. But basically the idea is, of course, there are a few things to say, and I remember talking this with Mukunda Datta Prabhu. He's the one in charge of the deity worship seva in Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan. So he's quite into Archana, and last year I was in Vrindavan and met him first time. I was talking like why do we worship? I mean, I asked him, not in a challenging way, but like in a joking way, but Krishna is omnipresent, right? Yes, he said. So then why we're worshiping the deity in the altar? Because he's everywhere. No? So why the need to localize him in one way if he's everywhere? And of course, the answer that I knew he was going to ask and answer that, which is the same thing that I will answer, is that, yeah, he's everywhere, but we don't see him anywhere. So let's start seeing him somewhere, right? And localize him in one particular place with of course, particular procedure and invoking the present. Of course, some other argument will be, or idea will be, he's everywhere, but not so much, more in his form as all-pervading Paramatma, but in his form as the Archa-vigraha is an invocation of Bhagavan, because you are calling Bhagavan to descend through bhakti, and the face of the Absolute that responds to bhakti is Bhagavan, right? There is no Paramatma in Golok Vrindavan, right? There's only Bhagavan. So that's another way of making sound. Of course, between Paramatma and Bhagavan, we are talking about the same person, but one could make this emphasis on, okay, the Murti is Bhagavan invoked by bhakti, while the the more generic, abstract, all-pervadingness of the Absolute has more to do with Paramatma, but we are looking for a relationship in eternity with Bhagavan. So that's one way of seeing it. But another way of seeing it or explaining it ontologically is, again, God is omnipresent. So it's not like, because this is tricky with Archana, and I always say it, we have to be careful that if you emphasize Archana too much, you end up seeing God only in one place, right? Okay, Krishna is there, God is there, and then the altar closes, and God is no longer there. And there I start to behave as if God is no longer there, until the curtain opens again, and I suddenly becomes a saintly person. That's a magic curtain that is creating that effect. And of course, scriptures say, well, that's kind of the Kanishta mentality, which is, we are not condemning Kanishta mentality. It's just we have to begin somewhere. And the Kanishta is more of a hyper-localized, he has a hyper-localized idea of Krishna. Krishna is there. A Kanishtas, I like to say jokingly, will think Krishna is not only in the altar, but Krishna is in my altar only. Or he's more in my altar than in your altar. That eventually I'm more generous. He's in every other altar, even more generous. Kanishta Madhyam, Kanishta and Uttam. He's in altars from sister traditions. till eventually the altar starts to expand and you realize, oh, every heart is an altar and Krishna is in every heart. So now the temple has broadened. Oh, every time I meet a heart, I'm in the temple. And eventually you realize, you reach the Uttam perspective, which is there is not a place where Krishna is not, which is the kind of vision that the gopis had in separation from Krishna. Krishna disappeared officially from them and they start to see him everywhere. But of course, who is there? So we need to begin somewhere. So that's why many times Archana is related as something very necessary and important in the beginning to start to perceive God somewhere. But we could say that as much as your vision, internal vision develops, you may not depend on Archana to perceive God everywhere else. That doesn't mean that the more advanced you are, you will be ended up rejecting Archana altogether. That's not necessarily the case. Remember, we talked about that with Mukunda Datta Prabhu. So someone who is super, 1 second, someone who is Uttam Bhagavat and is perceiving Bhagavan everywhere, that person doesn't need to engage in Archana because, again, they are already, I mean, the whole world has become an altar and everything is worshipable for them. But again, who is there? So most of us may need to go back to the more localized version and gradually start there. And one more thing that I want to mention, because you asked about ontology and method, if I heard correctly. And this is an important aspect of Archana, though it may not sound so related to it, but that's in the Bhagavatam, and that's a set of verses that I've referred to a few times from Kapila Dev, speaking to Devahuti on Archana. But his main emphasis is on relationships, interestingly. He says, like, that person who worships me on the altar but mistreats others or doesn't see my presence in everyone else's heart, that worship is useless, basically. It's like throwing ashes into the fire. And he has a little set of heavy verses about how that worship is basically useless because it's not reflected in how we treat and relate everything and everyone else in connection to God's presence in their heart. So I think that's a very important aspect of Archana, so we don't become, how to say, addicted to the altar, and then we are dysfunctional outside of the altar and we don't know how to relate to anyone, to ourselves. So there has to be, ideally, gradually at least, some continuity and some coherence in how do I express my affection and devotion to the deity on the altar and how I treat everyone else. In one sense, that's the essence of Archana, not to end up being trapped, so to say, trapped in the altar and it's just Krishna and me, but eventually I realize it's Krishna and everything that Krishna loves, which is everything. It's Krishna and everything that is related to Krishna, which is everything. Again, we have to get there gradually, so we may start just Krishna and me, Kanishta, Bhagavat, but gradually expand the realm of adoration. Sorry, you want to say something?
Well, Major, thank you. And that foundationally answers my question, but I'm realizing actually the only reason this has been a burning question for weeks was because the Swami, it was a white male from the UK. He was framing the whole thing in order to answer this question that I posed to you. But when he was answering it, it was kind of from the perspective of like, you know, to these Abrahamic theists like Christians who call this idolatry, what's the answer to that? And then he says, it's not like we're idolaters like savages dancing naked around a totem pole. And my wife's Navajo, and it's the first time I'd brought her to one of these, and she's a sun dancer at the central tradition of the Lakota Sundance under the 19th carrier of the white buffalo calf woman medicine pipe, Chief Arvo Looking Horse. So and I was there praying on it, and in my mind, it is in my practice, Swarup is such a helpful word because it's myself, same form. There it is, everything internal, external, I'm worshiping. And so when he framed it like that, and in your answer, I heard it more directed towards like the impersonal theists. How is this justified? But I'm also like the piece of me that is not at peace right now for weeks has been that a Vaishnava spoke down against a lesser idolatry while defending idolatry as a claim against us. So I'm just wondering if
Not
Yeah.
my circus, not my monkeys, I will say.
Right.
And
I get that.
I with all, I don't
Good
know
idea.
who that Swami is, and I'm not criticizing him, and I have nothing. I'm not talking about anyone else here, but there are different Vaishnavas who say different things in different ways about everything. So we have also to find our place and hear from those sources that we resonate with, and if something is terribly disturbing for us, for reasons that are not our fault, no, because something may be terribly disturbing for me and I need to confront that, but if it's something that we feel is not necessarily right coming from the other person, well, nobody's forcing me to accept that, and nobody's forcing me to go there or to hear that. And regarding idolatry and what sometimes people call idolatry, and as they say, as beauty is in the eye of the beholder, idolatry is in the eye of the beholder as well. So you could be, again, in one sense, worshiping the deity and mistreating everyone else is a form of idolatry. And the opposite, and the other way around, worshiping nature or whatever in a coherent way, it's no idolatry at all. So it's not so much what's going on the outside. Are you worshiping a card form of Krishna, or are you worshiping a rock, which again for some could be like quite idolatrous, like you are putting a rock in an altar, or you are worshiping nature, or whatever external form the ritual takes. If you ask me, is that idolatry or not, I will say, I don't know. I need to know what's going on in the heart of the person. That's what determines what's idolatry or not what's going on the outside. You follow my point? So, because externally we may be doing the nice puja and everything like this, but if if I'm doing it from a place where I'm projecting a dysfunctional idea of who Krishna is to the deity, that's idolatry. That's not actually adoration of Thakurji. I'm not relating to the real Krishna. I'm projecting my whatever notion of the divine, and then stopping the puja, and then mistreating everyone outside of the altar, more idolatry over there. And someone else maybe not a Gaudiya Vaishnava, maybe a nature worshipper, and there may be way more how to say, adorer, as you say, worshipper. Someone who adores is an adorer. Yeah, we have to create a new word for that. And we may be way more personal and personalist than someone who is, as I try to make the point in my book, Radical Personalism. We are officially very personal and personalist, but in practice, sometimes we are way impersonal. And someone else in their own theology and philosophy may not be as personalist in details and specificity as we are, but they may be way more personalist in how they relate to everything. So we'll have to be ready to be humbled by everyone and everything, and learn from every direction. That's as much as I could say, hoping to pour some water on your burning heart for the last few weeks. So yeah.
Thank you for that, as much as water as can be poured.
Yeah.
Jai Shri Radha.
Jai Shri Radha. Okay, let's go a few minutes to the breakout room before Divyangana presents her question, so we can also churn out a little bit this last topic, because we have been talking about a few things. Let's concentrate maybe, if you want, on this last topic we have been entertaining for a few moments, and see you back in just a few minutes. Welcome back, you all. Nice to see you. Hoping you had a safe trip in the breakout rooms. Since we don't have much time, and since the sharing from the breakout rooms was way longer than usual in the previous one, I invite, if you have anything you would like to share from the breakout room, relatively short, so we have a few minutes for Divyangana's question. But yeah, I beg for brevity on this occasion, so some minutes. Welcome.
Okay, so I'm going to be really quick. Basically, worshipping Krishna, Gaurnitai or Radha Krishna, deities or God is basically, it's not, there's no limit, you know. So like even if someone didn't know, say, the specific methodology or process of steps of how to worship, as Radha Krishna aren't necessarily like, oh, there's no process here, so we can't accept the, worship, but rather that devotion is like unlimitedly creative. So a person can reasonably just say, offer their own prayers and have their own relationship with their deity, or even no deity at all if they don't have deities. And there's nothing's holding anyone back from that loving relationship, because it's literally everywhere, internally and externally, everywhere all at once. Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. Someone else would like to share some little droplets of nectar? Some sweet sprinkling on all of us, thirsty, hopefully Chataka birds, waiting for that drop to fall. Okay, then we'll continue with the last question or exploration that Divyangana may have. Since we don't have much time, Divyangana, we may have to do it, both you and me, not so long, but of course, we will try to address whatever you want to share today in the best possible way. So you can unmute yourself. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Yes, I will try to be be brief, but to be honest, in this time now, I'm having a lot of questioning, because a lot of I will say some of the traditional Vaishnava culture, for me, I don't feel aligned in my heart at all with it. And for example, next week will be Nirjal Ekadashi. And sometimes I feel a lot about Vaishnav culture is around, this big tapas, and you have to not sleep, and you have to not eat, and it's you have to some people, they like it, but for me it's torture. Like, if you do this to me, I'm not able to function even 15 minutes. It's impossible.
No need to do Pandava Nirjala Ekadasi. Pandava Nirjala Ekadasi is for Bhima. That was for him, the Nirjal, not for us. Because he was eating all over everything all over the place. So he asked for one day of. I don't want to interrupt your question. Sorry, just want to say that. Please continue.
Thank you. It's one thing, and other things I don't understand these rules. Why we are fasting, and the one who is not fasting, you have to fast from grains and beans. So I understand there is a story around it, and I understand it comes also in a context of cultural Indian context, where if you say to Indian people you cannot eat rice and dal, basically there is nothing to eat in the feeling. And but for me personally, I feel like I do it, but it doesn't make sense. And also why? Because it's a bit personal, but I have a history with food, a bit, let's say, a bit complicated, more in the border, like eating disorder and things. And for me, like, everything that touch my food and my regularity with food and the way I am used to balance it, it's not very, I don't feel like it's very good. And also, like, in this day, because I need to balance my meal, I need to eat protein, I end up eating a lot of dairy. And dairy, I don't feel it's the most beautiful things ever, because it hurts the planet, it hurts animal. And then I feel like, oh, I'm doing something, but instead of doing something better than usual, I just feel like I'm doing something a bit worse at the end. So yeah, that's my feeling sometimes.
Well, thank you for sharing that and bringing your feelings with all of us. And of course, you are not alone in that. Again, you are not the only one having some of those feelings, some of those complexities, or some of those tensions with how some, not all, but some Vaishnavas may understand or present or emphasize certain ways of practicing. So you are not alone in that. Just being with that, Divyangana, right? We are held in and being witness in the circle of community. And I will personally, if it helps at all, try to, yeah, hopefully help you to decompress all that. It's not about fasting. It's not about sleeping less. I know that many practitioners, not only in our tradition, but in any tradition, have a more renunciation-oriented practice or rejection or negative-oriented practice. It's about not doing or doing less, eating less, sleeping less. I mean, if you sleep less than what you need, you become totally dysfunctional during the day. You go crazy, right? So it's not about not sleeping. The goal of life is to love Krishna. So whatever helps you to love Krishna, that's your best. So if for some person fasting helps, great. If for some person fasting does not help, great. I mean, great not to fast for that person. Not as an excuse to overindulge in anything, but just every system is different, right? I mean, there may be general rules and recommendations, but however each body is constituted and which our particular physical, psycho-emotional needs, that needs to be very tailor-made. We cannot make like one rule, one size fits all, everyone has to do it the same way. So there are different ways to do Ekadashi, there are different ways to do this or that. As for Ekadashi, just to give an example, I already clarified this idea with the Nirjal, or the original stories related to Bhima. It's not that one needs to do Nirjal. There are Vaishnavas who do Nirjal. I've done Nirjal. I'm not doing that much, but if I mean, there is a point in fasting and cleaning the system and rebooting it if it works for that person. And even though it may be hard, but if it's with understanding and it's helping in the long run, it's great. But it may not work for everyone. And it's okay. It's not that the one who is fasting is better than the one who is not fasting. The one who sleeps less is more beloved by Krishna than the one who sleeps 10 more minutes. And that's not our tradition. And Ekadashi, actually, there are many ways to explain Ekadashi, but to be very, hopefully, simple, not simplistic, simple, but also essential, is like the idea of Ekadashi is like 2 days a month, that somehow you organize your 2 days a month to try to focus in a special way, to dedicate yourself in a special way, and trusting that that will create a momentum for the next 2 weeks till the next Ekadashi. Kind of like in Jewish tradition, you have Shabbat every Saturday. Like it's 1 day a week where you stop doing many things, and there's a particular focus, right? There's a particular way of trying to create space and organize your time and have another quality of presence. In some traditions, this will be 1 Saturday, 1 day a week. In other will be 2 days a month. Different, but the essence is a few special days that, if possible, if it's not possible on Ekadashi because it falls on a day that, I don't know, it's a weekday and you're working, and someone may say, well, I have Sundays really free, I will dedicate 2 special Sundays per month to and it is not that even you have to do that, but I think the logic is clear that sometimes you choose a few days that you have available and you try to dedicate yourself specially to prayer and contemplation and study of the scripture, whatever, and that will charge you especially for the rest of the next day, like that. So the intention of Ekadashi is a little bit that, again, as much as it's sustainable. It's not about not eating pizza, right? Or it's not even about not eating grains. That's an incidental part of that. But then, because I see that most devotee Ekadashi is like, okay, today no grains. That means celebrating Ekadashi? I'm not so sure. So ideally, the spirit is more like it's a day to stop, and sometimes you may not be able to stop on that day. And the idea with grains is, of course, that day the moon is in a little situation influencing the water element and the mind element, so grains may create a further impact in the body and influence it. But it doesn't mean that you are going to hell if you eat grains on Ekadashi. Let me say that, because I know that for some of, and I'm not here promoting, hey guys, next Ekadashi, lots of pizza for everyone. I'm not saying that. I mean, I'm not eating grains on Ekadashi, in case you're wondering. But my point is, if you happen to eat grains on Ekadashi, for whatever reason, it's not that you're going to hell and Krishna forgot you for eternity. This famous instance where Bhakti Daita Madhav Maharaj, a disciple of Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta, he was, or the order of his guru, traveling in India and sharing Harikatha, and his guru sent him on one day to a place. It was Ekadashi, and he said, like, okay, if you need to eat grains, it doesn't matter. I want you to have good health. Maybe you're traveling, it's too light food to not eat grains on this day for you. So if you need to eat grains, no problem. He didn't do it, but the point was that his own guru was setting that precedent, like, be practical, be common sense. So he could travel and do all the things he did, Madhav Maharaj, without having to eat grains. But some other people, maybe you, maybe some other, doesn't matter, may need to eat grains, or maybe, depending each case again, or may need to eat a certain way, may need not to fast, may need to eat properly to be balanced physically, emotionally, and of course that's a priority. What's the purpose of like people, I don't know, I see devotees in, not now so much, but in the past I remember, okay, Janmashtami, Sri Krishna Janmashtami. What's Janmashtami is all about? Of course, fasting till midnight, right? That's the essence of Krishna Janmashtami, right? To be miserable till midnight, dreaming about the 108 preparations, not thinking at all about Krishna. And then when the time's you're just thinking about the food, and when the food comes, you just run to the food, and then you go to sleep, and you didn't think about Krishna one single moment of the whole Janmashtami. That's what Janmashtami is about, right? No, that's not. And I met many devotees, and many times on Janmashtami, especially when we were living at the ashram, we were like, again, cooking 108 preparations and doing kirtan and cleaning and receiving. You were doing so many things more than any other day, and you were eating so much less than any other day. So you put those two together, and probably you'll be a little grumpy on Janmashtami, to say the least. And again, you want the festive spirit, not like everyone like completely like susceptible, like you don't get close to that person. So to many devotees in Janmashtami that are like, oh, I'm so disturbed, I would lack of energy. Go and eat something, please. Don't torture yourself. Don't torture Krishna in your heart. He's suffering as much as you are suffering by seeing you suffering. Go and eat. Janmashtami is not about not eating. Srila Samash will say many times, he will say, the idea of fasting, upavas, that's a very important word in Sanskrit. That's maybe the last thing I will say. Upavas is a word used many times for ekadasi or for fasting. Upavas. Upavas means to reside close. Basa means like residing, no? Like Mathura Bas, Braja Bas. Bas means to reside, and Upa means close. So in other words, the idea of the fasting is upavas, to get closer to Krishna. So to do it in a way that you are getting closer. If you are not getting closer, if you are getting disturbed and traumatized and sick, what's the purpose of that? No, but I reached the fasting till midnight. Who cares? Do you think you will receive a medal? Do you think that Krishna is expecting you to check those boxes? No. So it's important for us to be practical. Niyamagraha, Rupa Goswami said, not to follow rules without understanding them, but to follow the spirit of the law and then adjusting the law accordingly. So the spirit of the law, upavas, the spirit of fasting, is to get closer to Krishna. What will make me get closer to Krishna? If it's fasting, ki jai. If it's not fasting, then not fasting, ki jai. Prabhupada will say, it's not about fasting, it's about feasting. Right? That's another way of putting it. Srila Sridhar Maharaj will say, what's the meaning of nirjal, of not taking water? He said, it means that you get so much absorbed in kirtan and all that you forgot to eat. Now the point is, who is there? If you are there, the point is, that's a healthy way of doing it. It's in a way that you forgot about doing it. It's not like you're all day thinking about it, tortured, that you cannot do it. That's not the spirit to go through. It's like you become so positively focused on devotional practices that you forgot about eating. If that can happen, great. in one sense, there was no fasting because you were not even thinking about it. So it was not about the fasting, it was about the absorption. So if you can get that same absorption, if you can get that absorption without eating, okay. Now, if you need to eat to be balanced and then absorb yourself in that, then you eat, because the principle is to get absorbed. No? Smarta vyasatatam vishnur vishmarta vyanajatu chit sarbi biddhimi sedasur etayore bakinkara. This is the golden rule for all this stuff. It's a famous verse from the Puranas that say, always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. All rules and regulations are in service to those principles. In other words, the principle is absorb, focus, presence. So whatever you need to do for that to happen, whether it's fasting, not fasting, this or that, I'm trusting that the other person is sincere in discerning that, you will do it. So for some person will be nirjal, not even water. For some other person will be water. For some other person will be fruits. For some other person will be fruits and vegetables. For some other person will be something else. Again, Krishna is not like checking on that and taking a note of your diet and then showing that at the end of your life, like on this Ekadasi, right? So we have to be, we have to apply common sense, discernment, and be honest about where we are. And it doesn't mean that we are worse than other ones. It doesn't mean that the one who is fasting is more advanced. Let's not make a competition out of this. Because I can also torture myself and fast and do it till midnight and then be the most proud person in the community because I was the only one who did it. What was the purpose of that? Right? So at the end of the day, our sincerity. Krishna wants our sincerity, no matter what form it takes. So if I may dare to say, please try to make whatever adjustments are healthy for you, sustainable for, and I'm telling that to you, Divyangana, but of course this goes to each one of us, including Swami Padmanabha. Let's take whatever time we need to, eat properly, rest properly, heal properly, psychologically, emotionally, physically, and be a healthy, wholesome bhakta. Krishna wants us susukam kartum, right? Bhagavad Gita 9.2. Bhakti is to be performed in a very joyful way. So if we are feeling the way I'm practicing making me more miserable, more traumatized, that was not Krishna's intention. That's not the idea. So what do I need to adjust? And if some people will say, no, you should be fasting only, no water, let the dogs bark. That's it. I mean, not my circus, not my monkeys. And they'll say, oh, you are so proud, you are not following my advice. Gaur Hari Bol. I've been trying to provide enough reasoning for one to justify your stance shastrically. So it's not some whimsical mentality and excuse to enjoy your senses brutally and selfishly. It's just, I just want to be a balanced human being to practice bhakti from a place of wholeness, right? And Krishna wants that, again, 6th chapter of the Gita. Whatever you eat, whatever you rest, whatever you do during waking times, during sleeping times, yukta hara viharasya, yukta chistasya karmasu, yukta swapna babhodasya, yukta. Let all that be balanced. And what's balanced for you is not the same balance for other person. For that person, balance is not taking water. That balances you, kijai to your balance. Mine requires something else. It's fine. As long as we are sincerely trying to be balanced to offer ourselves. So I don't know if that helps.
Very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for bringing the topic, which is important, relevant one. And I don't want to go too much over time, but if we have at least 5 minutes, we invite you one final breakout session, breakout room, so we can share a few more, turn together a little bit, how this feels for us, how this looks to us, any thoughts we have, any experience we have. We see each other in a few minutes for our final goodbye of the day. There you are. Welcome back. Hoping you had a safe and sweet trip with one another or by private introspection. And well, with deep gratitude, we put to rest today's conversation, feeling hopefully complete and nourished, and for that we can bring further completeness, invoking this beautiful mantra from the Upanishads that reminds us how whole and complete everything already is, and how much more complete and whole it can always become. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamiva Vashishyati. Shriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Harinam Prabhu ki jai, Samveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Preman Hari Hari Bol.